right, I'm live. I am just doing a quick experiment here. I was curious as to whether or not I could do live streams from outside when the weather's um and yeah, I can't use my phone or anything, so I just brought my laptop out here, and I wasn't sure if I would have enough signal from out in my front yard to go live or not. Uh, okay, it seems I have enough signal to do this. Anyone's watching, is this coming through okay? Okay, so, okay, so here's the problem with it. Outside, it's really hard to see the screen. So somebody said, hi there, how you doing today? I'm good, I'm in a good mood. And I didn't really have anything in particular to say. Sorry, the stream wasn't for your benefit, the viewers. This was just to check out if I could do this so I would know in the future. Because now that the weather's getting nicer, I like to spend as much time outside as possible. And I wasn't sure if this would work or not. But yeah, you guys can see me okay. So Vakur, sorry, I'm mispronouncing that. So far, so good. Great to hear you're doing well. And Empress of Eden says this works. Okay, cool. So it seems like the big downside is it's really hard to see the screen out here, but I am able to read it. And so the signal's strong enough that this comes through. Okay, very cool. So I didn't have anything in particular planned for this. I just wanted to try this out. So I might just and actually take this down. But if anyone watching does have anything they'd like to say, I can stick around for a few minutes. But really, I was just checking to see so I would know in the future if when I feel like sitting out in the sun and I wanted to go live, is this possible? So very cool. It is possible. That makes me happy. So we've only got one person watching anyway. So does the one person watching have anything to say? You've got me all to yourself at the moment. Okay, there's a couple other people have come on. Yeah, I was just doing a test to see if I could stream from outside at my place. I didn't know if the signal would work or not. So Taryn Marine says, hello, beautiful country there. Yeah, thanks. It's absolutely gorgeous here. I live in Quebec, and it's a nice area. Lots of forest and valleys and lakes and streams, lots of wildlife, and lovely bird song. You're absolutely right. Hello, Something Games. How are you doing today? And yeah, after if anyone saw, I had jumped on at the end of Ryan's live stream a few minutes ago, then went into the kitchen to pour myself a coffee, looked out the back window and saw a coyote today. He was just outside the window. So I thought that was pretty cool. I got to see a coyote nice and up close. I watched it out the window for a couple minutes, and then as it went off out the backyard towards the fields, I ran outside to see how close I could get. I got, I don't know, maybe 300 feet from it before it finally took off. But yeah, we have nice wildlife here in this area. So the experiment's successful. Apparently I can go live from outside. I'm pleased about that. So now that I know that I have this option, and it's a little bit better backdrop for a live stream than the wall inside my house. So Taryn Marine says coyotes likely chasing whitetail fawns. I think it was chasing. There's a groundhog living in my yard this spring, I've noticed. Also, there's been a skunk around the past couple days that I've seen quite a few times. But once the coyote went off into the backfield, I was watching it for a while. I think it was after something under the ground. It was doing a lot of hopping in one area and a little bit of digging. So I don't think it was after the deer today. So Vacur or whatever it is, or whatever, however it's pronounced, says I'm a bit jealous. I'm stuck in the. Yeah, I used to live in. I lived in Toronto for years, and when I was younger, when I was like 20, at first I loved Toronto. There was tons of shit to do, lots of concerts and all of that. But the way I am now, I can't imagine living in a city anymore. I've gotten so spoiled living out here in the country with the quiet and nature. I don't know how people do it living in cities anymore at all. So yeah, I'm very fortunate. And actually, yeah, this farm I'm on, my great grandfather was the purchased this farm directly from the Queen. So the original deed for this farm was actually from England and was like signed by the Queen. So only the black family settled this, and so it was my great grandfather that cleared these fields and built this house and built the barns back here. And it's there's a creek that runs back along there. It's called Black Creek, named after our family. Not a fan of the whistling pigs, so I'm rooting for the coyote in this instance. Is whistling pigs what you call a groundhog? I've never heard that before. Anytime I watch something in nature, when you watch a nature show and something's chasing down something else, I like happy endings. So if the lions take down the zebra, I'm happy for the lions. And if the zebra gets away, I'm happy for the zebra. So, CHG Longstone, did you hang with the BFGs in Kensington? Are you talking about a bunch of fucking goofs? The old punk band? Like the old Canadian punk band, bunch of fucking goofs. I've met a couple of them a few times, but I don't know them if that's who you're talking about. If not, I'm not sure what BFGs is. Karen Marine says skunks are fairly harmless if smelly when threatened. Got sprayed right in the fucking face by a skunk before. It doesn't feel so harmless when you have that stench full speed right in your face. It was back when I was a teenager, living at my parents' farm. My parents' farm's just up this way a little bit. We had just moved here when I was a teenager out into the country, and I didn't appreciate the country when I was a teenager. So I was always wanting to head down to the city, like down to Ottawa, and I was in a punk band back then. So I was always just off in the city whenever I could be or off visiting them. And one weekend I'd been gone for the weekend and was coming home on a Sunday night. And at that point, my three youngest siblings were still pretty young. So they were like all under 10. I'd been gone for the weekend and they were all excited that I came home. So as I was driving in and I got out of the car to walk up onto the porch, my little sister and two younger brothers were like banging on the screen door, all excited that I was there. And I couldn't see it because it's like a walled in part of the porch, but there was a skunk up on the porch eating the cat food. And as I walked up to go up the steps of the porch and the kids were banging on the door, which freaked out the skunk, it went to run off the porch. And I was like just right at the bottom step and it went to run off and it was on the top step. It looked at me for a second and then just in one motion, it jumped and did a 180 and just pointed its ass right at me. It was the quickest motion, tail up, and just from 3 feet away, it blasted me down the shoulder and all up the side of my face. And in cartoons, when a skunk sprays, it's like this psh, as if it's a stinky perfume, like a mist. The reality is it's this thick, chunky snot-like shit. And it is so disgusting. Like that after smell, when you drive past a dead skunk or something and there's what we think of as the skunk smell, that's like the after smell, like an aftertaste, the intense smell of it, really fucking brutal. The other thing I found interesting is the grackles in the yard this year. Other years I've had falcons nest here, and they seem to have dominated the barnyard. But this year I saw one of the falcons come back, and I saw it around a while, but I hadn't seen both of them. And then just recently I noticed it's in the tiny little shed right there. I'm not sure if you can see it. The smaller of these two sheds is where the falcons had nested every year since I'd been here. I hadn't seen the falcons around in a while. And just recently I noticed some other bird. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's not a grackle, but it's another small blackbird is nesting there. So I think maybe what happened is one of the falcons didn't make it through this winter, because I did see one around, but I didn't see both of them, and now they're gone. What was I saying? Oh, right. So anyway, so the grackles have really taken over the yard this year. There's not a huge group of them here, but there's at least 5 or 6, and I've noticed they watch the yard, and I've been hanging out with them a lot. Yesterday, and they'll chase away crows. They let some birds come in, but grackles do not like crows. They chase them away. But yesterday I noticed they were having a little, they were making a bunch of noise right over here. And I walked over to see like what they were chirping at, and there was a skunk coming over towards this building where I think they have some of their nests. And the grackles will chase away a skunk. And yeah, I also helped them because they chased it away once, the whole group of 3, and then later, one of the grackles was chirping again, and I walked over, and the skunk was back. Here's one of the grackles right now landing up there. It started chirping at it, and before the rest could summon, I went over and helped. I shouted at the skunk to get it moving on for them. So it's actually kind of nice to know, because having been sprayed by a skunk once, like I love skunks, I'm fine with them. I'm not worried about them because they're not aggressive. But what sucks is when you scare a skunk by accident. So it is kind of nice to know that I can come stumbling out into the front yard here, and I'm not going to surprise a skunk and get sprayed because the grackles are on top of it. So I know if there's one around, they'll be chirping at it. Let's see. So Taryn Marine says groundhog, woodchuck, whistling pig, different names, same critter. Okay, yeah, I knew groundhog and woodchuck. I'd never heard whistling pig before. That's interesting. Particularly hated critter because their burrow can cause a horse to suffer a broken leg. Yeah, and that's why farmers shoot groundhogs, is the holes they make can be very inconvenient in the gardens, but I don't mind the little groundhog that's living around here. I also have nothing wrong with farmers like killing something that's interfering with crops. As much as I was really happy to see that coyote, I've also got a coyote head on my wall. Actually, what's interesting, coyote could be a relative of the one hanging on my wall, because my friend Kyle shot that coyote on a farm about a 10-minute drive from here. So that's a local coyote head. So that could have been a relative. So I have nothing wrong with humans killing animals when we need to. On the other hand, that doesn't make me dislike the animal. And I'm happy to have that little groundhog in my yard. It's not causing any problems for me at the moment. On the other hand, if someone's got a groundhog fucking with their garden, I don't see anything wrong with defending your garden. So the Soul Tree Project. Hey, Ryan. I thought you had shit to do. What are you wasting your time online for? Says, I need to come visit. Well, yeah, you're going to be coming to visit sometime. What did you say? You're going to be in Maine from June 20th to July 20th. So hopefully you will be able to, hopefully you'll be able to come up here and hang out for a little while, because it's gorgeous here. I think you'll really like it. Merc, Longstone in the chat is who we are scheduled to speak with next week. But CHG Longstone. Okay, who said, you're the one asking about the BFGs. Okay, cool. We're talking to you next week. Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Taryn says crows can be very destructive to farms, pluck out the seedlings for no purpose. Yeah, absolutely. Crows can be a lot of problem. It's funny to watch the grackles and the crows because the grackles are so much smaller than the crows. But just a single grackle will chase a crow away, and the crow is so much bigger. It seems to me like it's the grackles are faster and more nimble and just seem to be able to really fuck with the crows in air. But they, the grackles are the birds that own this barnyard this summer. They're the, whereas previously it was the falcons. And I was disappointed the falcons didn't nest here this year. I really enjoyed that. Watching the falcons was really nice, and especially when the babies came out. But circle of life, and now I've got a bunch of grackles to hang out with. Although I did see grackles before in the yard. The falcons would allow them in the yard, just not over at that area. But since the falcons are gone, the grackles have really made themselves at home here. So Taryn says, I hear a house finch, a boy singing for a mate. Interesting. I would love to know more about bird names. Even like I'm calling them grackles now, but only because my wife pointed out what they were called once I was hanging out with them more. I was like, there's some little black bird with a shiny blue-black head, and she told me it was called a grackle. I'm fascinated by nature, love nature, but I don't know any of the bird calls. I don't know the names of most birds. It is something I'm interested in, but like not interested enough to actually look it up, I guess. The same as I love stargazing. I will spend tons of time in the summer outside just staring at the stars. But I also don't know my astronomy. I don't know my constellations. I can't name the stars. And it's something I would like to be able to do. I'm interested, just not interested enough to actually look it up. So Ryan's at the gym passively listening. Okay, cool. Enjoy your workout. So Taryn says, I've watched that. I did not know what I was watching. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Oh, smaller birds chasing away larger birds. Yeah, it seems just, and when I watch them, it seems that the grackles are far more agile. Okay, right now there's a crow at the top of this really big tree just sitting there, and two grackles have landed beside it and are just screaming at it. The crow doesn't seem to give a shit at all. It is just sitting there. So a crow is not afraid of a grackle, I can see here, when they are landed. And yeah, one grackle's diving at it, trying to get it to take off. And the crow's like 3 times their size. So yeah, perched, this is the first time I've observed this. Perched, the grackles are not capable of chasing away that crow. It's just sitting there and it doesn't give a shit. But when you watch them in the air, the crow's flying and the grackle can just dive all around it and peck at its back and peck everywhere. So it seems that once they're in the air, the crow's pretty helpless because the grackle's far more agile and can just peck at it and torment at it, and the crow can't turn fast enough. But right now they're sitting right up there, and yeah, that crow doesn't give a shit at all. There's 2 grackles like a foot away from it, telling it to fuck off, and he doesn't care. Now, I bet you the minute that crow's in the air, though, they're going to be able to torment it. Nope, crow's just sitting there, doesn't give a shit. Yeah, and another, yeah. Yeah, the grackles are diving at it, and the crow just like turns its head and stares it down. So it knows it's bigger. So it must be the aerial agility that is the factor, because he's holding his ground. Those 2 grackles are just diving at him over and over. Yeah, so with their feet on the ground, crow, or on a tree branch, the crows can't be intimidated by the grackles. All right, so Ryan said, if you want to learn bird language, look up John Young. He's the best there is. Grizz says, okay, start over. I'm here now. All right, everyone, start going back to what you wrote before and start retyping it. I'll try to remember what I responded so that Grizz doesn't have to rewind this. But good advice, Ryan. Maybe I will at some point. I'm really bad at taking the time to look up things I want to know, which is like why I like philosophy so much, because at first I didn't look any of it up. I just sat and thought about it all I wanted. Okay, so Taryn is referring to the bird he named earlier, which I'm forgetting what it was, but they look similar to cardinals but less red, and the females are very plain. Okay, I have seen a bird like that around recently. Griswold Grimm says, I like crows, but that's mainly Brandon Lee's fault. I never got into the Crow movie. I think I was a teenager when the Crow came out, and everybody fucking loved that. And not that I disliked it. Like, to me, it was just an okay movie, but everyone else loved that movie so much when it came out that in fact may have made me like it even less. If everyone's fawning over an okay movie, especially when I was a teenager, that would make me like it less. Okay, the Crow just took off, and yes, instantly, both those grackles are on it, and yeah, the Crow's just taking off straight out of their territory. So the minute the Crow was in the air, the grackles had it, and they're coming back now. And yeah, the grackles seem to control the territory they feel they own up to the road. So, and I don't know if you can see, there's a grackle right here, pecking around. But they up to the road, and they feel they own my driveway, which has trees down each side. So if crows land in those trees on the driveway, any bird in those trees is there with the grackle's permission. However, when they're chasing something, as soon as it hits the road, which the field on the other side is still part of this farm, but the grackles turn back as soon as the crows have gone past there. There's a tree line along here, and that tree line is also the edge of the grackles' territory in that direction. And it's the creek just down here, Black Creek, where once they've chased something past the creek, they leave it alone. So I can see the borders they control. And once that crow took off, he went directly that direction out of their territory. And yeah, but that's interesting. I'd never seen before a crow sitting for a while like that, standing up to them. Oh, okay. So Longstone's saying same relationship crows to eagles. Watched a pair hassle a bald eagle once. Interesting. I've never seen that. We get bald eagles around here sometimes. Not often, but we occasionally see bald eagles. And I've never seen anything hassle a bald eagle. Or more often, I've seen a lot this summer. These hawks, they're almost white. Like the underside is white and the back is a very, very, very light brown. So they almost look like white hawks. They can come around, and the grackles, I haven't seen anything interfere with the hawks. Also, nothing seems to mind the turkey vultures. I've never seen anything hassle those. And yeah, Taryn, the house finches you hear singing was the description. Cool. Thanks for that. And Benjel says, probably fighting over who gets to fly into your stove next. No, it is only one kind of bird has gone into my stove so far. Like, it's always been the same kind of bird, or it has been the exact same fucking bird. And that live stream where I had the bird in my stove, it was in there for a while. And then after I finished the stream, I came and I was just sitting outside, actually like about right here. And my wife came over, went inside, and came out holding the bird. So it had gotten out of the stove but didn't find the door. So she let the one out that day, but it was the same kind. So it's a small bird, about the size of a grackle, and it's black, but it's got sort of a brownish tint to the feathers, and its beak is like yellow. and I don't know what that bird is, but it's a small black bird with sort of a brown highlight to the feathers and a yellowish beak. That's the only one that's been climbing into my stove, and so far either 5 of them have this spring, or one fucking bird has climbed in 5 times so far. Taryn says, crows do bury their dead, one of the few wild critters to do so, however. Wow, I didn't know that. I did know that crows would show respect for the dead, that if there was a dead crow, a murder of crows would like land and have a moment of silence for it. The same way that elephants will take a moment of silence for a dead elephant, even if it's not part of their tribe or whatever. But I'd never heard that they actually bury the dead. That's fascinating. Oh, and Taryn says, sounds like a red-tailed hawk, the kind of hawk I've seen around. Maybe. I don't know enough about... Yeah, I don't know enough about bird names and whatnot. It's... And the same thing with the constellations. I don't know those either. I'd be interested to know more about that shit, but I'm lazy. And yeah, looking up things where it's like facts. This is what this is called and this is what that's called. I don't enjoy, like, I do want to know it, but I don't have fun studying that kind of thing, like trying to learn the names. On the other hand, listening to a long philosophic discussion or listening about psychology or even like listening about astrophysics and quantum mechanics and stuff is more interesting to me. I always hated like the learning the capitals of places and that kind of thing. So that kind of study is not fun for me at all. And so there's lots of things I would love to know that I don't know just because I'm not, that I don't particularly enjoy it. So Devore says, sup mate? Hey, how you doing? I'm having a nice day. Okay, and I've stayed on much longer than I thought. I just wanted to check out and see if this was possible, so that any other day that I was debating going live or going out to enjoy some time in the sun, so I would know whether it's possible. And then I guess it turned into a podcast about birds from somebody who knows very, very little about birds. But how are you doing? Yeah, and so how is everyone else feeling today? Red Manifest says, why the fuck is a group of crows called a murder? I have no idea why a group of crows is called a murder. It just is. Oh, wait, someone else appears to know. Taryn says, because war crows pick at dead things, including dead people. That's just his guess or her guess. Yeah, I would be completely guessing as well. I have no idea. Okay, so the experiment was a success. It's a little harder to read the screen, but I can just barely read the screen out here. And it seems that you guys are giving me the feedback that the signal holds. So for anyone who'd watched this whole thing, was it okay? Was it cutting in and out or anything? Or is my signal fine? Devore's doing good. Great. Glad to hear that. So was this perfectly fine? Did it ever cut out or anything? Or is this just as good as when I was streaming inside? Chris M says maybe because they murder other crows that are intruding their territory. Could be. I have no idea. Although that also brings to mind what is the root word of the word murder? Why does killing somebody, why do we have the word murder? Is that from any other root word that would explain that to us? So Divorce says no complaints, signal is good. Okay, awesome. So successful experiment. I am capable of streaming from outside now. That's cool to know. Okay, so Dick Justice says our group of ravens is called an unkindness. Is that true? An unkindness of ravens? And sorry, not that I am calling you a liar, Dick Justice. If you say it's so, I will believe you. Taryn says, if you see crows circling, there's some dead animal they are eyeballing from the sky. Often, yes. And we also have turkey vultures here. But if you get a whole bunch of them circling a field, there's something dead. Interesting. Turkey vultures are not native to this area. The government imported turkey vultures to this area because there was too big of a problem with roadkill. So we have like a lot of wildlife here. In this part of Quebec, it's not like the prairies where it's all top quality farmland and where it's all flat so that you can just turn the whole area into a giant flat field. The land here is really hilly, really rocky. There's lots of gullies and there's lots of little streams and shit. So there's lots of small fields cleared in certain areas around here, but there's still tons of forest, tons of lakes and streams, lots of places for wildlife to live. So we had a real problem back in the day with roadkill piling up at the side of the road. So they imported turkey vultures into the area just to clean up that roadkill problem. Okay, so Grizz says the wind noises could be problematic on occasion, but it's been pretty good since I've been here. Oh, okay. I hadn't even thought of that. I was just thinking about whether the signal reached. So there was some wind issue, but it wasn't too bad. Yeah, and so overall, then, if which would people prefer? Like, say one day I'm sitting around and I don't give a shit. I'm happy inside. I'd be happy outside, and I'm thinking of going live. Which would you guys prefer? Would you rather that I stayed inside so there was no wind noise? Or would you rather that I come out here so you get a better view than just the wall behind my couch? Yeah, just let me know. Which would you guys prefer? If I totally didn't care one day. Now, there would be other days where I want to be out in the sun so bad that the only way I would stream is if I'm streaming from outside. So I'm not talking about a day like that. But if I didn't give a shit one day, which would you guys prefer? Come out here for a backdrop or stay inside so we don't have the wind? So Red Manifest says, I really hope that's not a joke at Dick Justice. That would make me so happy. LOL. And Dick Justice says, I believe it's true. So that's talking about a group of ravens being called an unkindness. And yeah, and there's part of my brain. Have I heard that before? Or now is just part of my brain making that up and being like, oh, I knew that. I'd heard that before. And Taryn says, a group of certain apes is Congress. Okay. Now, are you referring to us there? Or do you mean there's another kind of ape other than humans that in a group are called Congress? Grizz says, I don't get the envy as bad when you're inside. Okay, so yeah, you also do not have a backdrop like this to the play that is your life. Yeah, that sucks to hear that so many of you guys are stuck in the city. Well, I mean, someone's happy in the city, great. But I do often think, fuck, I wish more people could get out into the country. And I mean, it's different for different people, but I had a friend in Ottawa, like when I was a teenager. And at one point, I took him out to my parents' farm. And that was his first time leaving Ottawa. And like that was his first time going to a farm. It's amazing to me the number of people, apparently, especially in places like New York, who never leave their bus system. I don't even know how to explain. You hear so many people talk about what's good about nature and how healing it is and how good for the soul. But there is something about being out here in nature that there is not words for. That I often feel really bad for people in the city who are disconnected from. Yeah, there's something that just is not experienced by the part of my brain that works with words that I can't explain. But I really wish I could share nature with you guys more. I feel bad for anyone just stuck in the city all summer. So Red Manifest says, I'd rather you stream whichever brings you the most happiness. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Thanks for like just caring about me rather than oh, and not to put down anyone if anyone further down has stated their own preference. But thanks, that was sweet. Empress of Eden prefers outside. Okay. Adela Darling says a group of turkeys is technically called a rafter. I did not know that either. And we've even had turkeys at my parents' farm. I've helped in raising turkeys, but funny in the States with senators and congressmen. Okay, so there's another kind of ape that a group of them's called a congress. Interesting. Pretty ironic humor to me anyway, says Taryn. Yes. So Empress of Eden says a group of vultures called a committee. Claire M says, is that weed I'm smoking? Yes, it is. Pineapple Soda says, good morning. Good morning, Pineapple Soda. Are you just waking up? Or are you saying good morning because you know I haven't been awake for more than 2 hours? Okay, so Taryn says, I rarely see wild turkeys. Pheasants, yes. Turkeys, not very often. We have, okay. And Pineapple Soda said, yes. Good morning, Pineapple Soda. We have a lot of wild turkeys around here. And sometimes you'll see groups of like 30 to 50 of them over one farm up this way where he's got a bunch of grain stored that they can get into. I will often see small groups of these going through my yard. Last summer in particular, there was one, they used to spend a lot of time here in my yard last year. And what's really cool is I've seen an albino turkey a whole bunch of times. So I don't know if there's a few albino turkeys in the area or if I was seeing the same one over and over again. But I have seen an albino turkey a bunch of times, and it's beautiful. It's almost pure white, except the tips of some of its feathers have brown. So it looks like I'm going to be getting going soon. My wife and kids are here. Was there anything else? Let's see. Red Manifest says, hey, Mercury, I just discovered your stream, and I'm glad to see it growing. I've got to go for today, but I'll try to catch your next stream. Peace. Thank you so much for joining us, Red Manifest. Yeah, and I'm not going anywhere. I'll be appearing live now and then. Oh, and every full moon at midnight Eastern Standard Time, I do a live stream. Other than that, they're just random. So, want to say hi? Okay, come say hi.
Hi.
This is my son, Logan. Say hi.
Hi.
Any message for the world? What?
I love you, Daddy.
I love you too. All right. Where's Violet? Oh, she's sleeping? Okay. All right, so I am going to get going. Ryan or Grizz or anyone else who's in the class today, I will see you guys in about 2 hours. And to everyone else, I will see you when I see you. So lunatic love to all. I hope everyone has a beautiful day. It's a grackle.